on November 5th, 2017, a madman came into Sutherland Springs, Texas, shooting through the walls and the windows of a 100-year-old church, murdering people because he hated Christians. And my daughter made me aware of what was going on. I ran to my gun safe, and I have a few guns. I used to be a competitive shooter and a shooting coach, and I taught self-defense classes. And I had a safe full of guns. I opened up the safe. I grabbed an AR-15, and I know those are illegal in Australia. But if you're going into a gunfight and you have a choice of a pistol or a rifle, always choose a rifle. I grabbed an AR-15, I grabbed a magazine and a handful of ammunition and loaded it up and ran across the street. I didn't take time to put shoes on. They call me the barefoot defender, and people say, I can't believe that you didn't take time to put shoes on. And I said, I kept hearing shots, and you're lucky I had pants on. The pantsless defender would be a little creepy, but the barefoot defender, I can live with that. I ran across the street. He had on class 3 body armor and a ballistic bulletproof helmet. And I ran behind a truck. He started firing at me. I ran behind a pickup truck. He hit the truck in front of me. He shattered the windshield of the car behind me. He hit the house behind me. And I put 6 out of 6 rounds that I fired on him. He was able to get into his vehicle and flee the scene. And I flagged down another Texan in a truck. And we chased him 11.6 miles. And he committed suicide at that point, and I'm okay with that.
Just incredible. So your small town, your small community. I'm from a very small town in South Australia, outback South Australia, of about 150 people. Very tight community. Did you know the people who were in the church that day? Did you lose loved ones? And what was going through your head when you just ran out of the house, no shoes on? You just had to get there to help.
Absolutely, I knew the people in the church. I knew almost all of them. As a matter of fact, like I say, I ride my Harley and deliver toys for the 8 years prior to the shooting. The church is who I ride with and deliver toys with. And so they're the ones that organize the motorcycle ride around Wilson County and deliver toys to and stuff. So that church, even that church, when I was like 5 years old, my great-grandfather would pick me up and hold me up, and I would grab the rope for the bell, and he'd pull me up and down to ring the bell to bring people to worship at that church. So that was my church. That's my family. That's people I cared about. So yes, that's great motivation to get out there. I kept hearing those shots fired. 26 people died, and 20 more were wounded, and he was walking around finishing them off at the time. And there's no way I could have stayed at home. I don't think I could have lived with myself if I had not done something to stop it.
And your eldest daughter, Stephanie, she was home at the time, and she's the one who first heard the noise. Did you hear any of the gunshots or?
Stephanie was the one that made me aware of the shooting. I was in my bedroom. I was relaxing because I was going to start an on-call. On-call is when I worked for a major metropolitan hospital as a maintenance plumber. And for the next week, I was going to have to carry a pager around with me. And when it goes off, I was going to have to call into work and then be at work. So I chose to stay home actually from church myself that day because I needed the rest, and I was going to be working a lot of extra hours. So I was in my room relaxing, and my oldest daughter, Stephanie, heard the shooting, And she came into my room and said, "Dad, doesn't that sound like gunfire?" And right away I thought it was someone tapping on my window. And I opened my curtains and I didn't see anything. She said, "Come into the kitchen, it sounds louder there." And when I walked out of my bedroom, I realized it was gunfire. And my second daughter, my second to the oldest daughter, my middle child, her and her husband had moved back in the house with us. She was pregnant with my very first grandbaby,
Oh.
and we were building her house ourselves. And so my wife and the second daughter were at the house with her husband building the house 5 miles away, actually on my property. And so they weren't there, and thank God they weren't there. And the oldest daughter told me about the shooting. I opened up a safe, grabbed a magazine, ammunition. I ran out the door, and my oldest daughter followed me out the door. And I truly believe that God, the Holy Spirit, was on me because I was thinking more clearly than I ever had in my life. I told her, "Go back in the house, find a magazine, and load another magazine." Because I only had a few rounds, and I didn't know how many rounds I had at the time. But it turned out I only had 8 rounds that I'd put in the magazine, and I ran across the street. I sent her back in the house to get her to stop following me. I did not want her to follow me over there because he had so many people I cared greatly about, and I didn't need her being a target for the murder. I wanted her to be safe in the house, so I sent her back in the house. And as I ran across the street, I yelled out, and I don't have a battle cry. I yelled out because I truly believe God called an evil demon out of him. The moment when I yelled, he had just shot Julie Workman hiding underneath the pews. He shot her through the breast, and then he skipped one off the concrete into her leg. And then he turned the gun to the pew in front of her where her son Chris was, and he shot Chris in the back, instantly paralyzing Chris from the waist down. And then he slung his rifle, and he was pointing his pistol directly at Chris when I yelled out. And Chris thought he was going to shoot him, but when I yelled, he dropped his rifle in the church and came shooting at me with his pistol outside the church.
So you saved his life by yelling out instinctively, or yeah, you don't have a battle cry. You're such a soft-spoken, beautiful man. I can't imagine you being Braveheart rushing in, but something just made you make that noise.
I believe that God called a demon out. I believe that man had a demon in him, and God called the demon out at that moment. I truly believe Chris thought he was going to shoot him. He was looking down the barrel. Excuse me. And what I can say is I truly believe that when God calls out a demon, the demon has to comply immediately. Why would he have dropped his rifle in the church and came out shooting? Why didn't he take the extra 2 seconds to shoot Chris and then shoot his mother and kill them and then come out? I believe that the moment that I called out, I believe God called him out through me. And it even became more evident as we chased him 11.6 miles down the road, and he had, before he started doing this, he had handcuffed his wife to the bed, and she had 2 infants in the house. And he had got in his body armor, grabbed all his guns, and came out. And just before he started shooting in the church, he called his father and said, "My wife needs you." And so his father had run over and unhandcuffed his wife. and they were together. And when we were chasing him down the road, he called and he told them, I've done something horrible. And I've been shot multiple times and I'm not going to make it. That statement, I've done something horrible, sticks in my head. I truly believe at that moment that the spirit, the evil demon that was in him, had left him, and he realized what he had done. Otherwise, I can't explain what he was saying. I've done something horrible. He said, I've been shot multiple times. I'm not going to make it. And that's when he shot himself.
So when he came, and I apologize, this must be quite triggering or traumatic to go through and talking about this, but I've seen you speak. I got to watch your speech at the Gun Owners of America convention, and it was just so powerful, and that's why I want to tell this story to the Australians. So when this bloke came out the church, he was shooting at you.
He was shooting at me, and he had on body armor. He had on class 3 body armor, which was enough to stop the bullets when I hit him in the body armor. And he had a ballistic bulletproof helmet like you see the military wearing. I hit him in the chest, left chest. I hit him in the abdomen. They didn't stop him. Those normally would have stopped him, but the body armor stopped the bullets. He ran for his vehicle, which was sitting in the middle of the street with the driver's side door open and the engine running. He turned to his side to get in, and I put one high in his side, in between the plates, and I put one high in his legs, and he was still able to get into the vehicle. He put 2 shots through the side window at me, and I put one across his forehead right underneath the rim of the helmet. And he accelerated, and he turned, and he was running as fast as he could. He was about 150 yards away. That's 140 meters or so. And I put one through the back windshield, and it shattered the back windshield, and it hit him right at the left shoulder blade, and he topped the hill, and he was on the run. It took the police between 5 to 7 minutes longer. They were 5 to 7 minutes behind me. Wow. He would have had enough, and that's an eternity, and inside a building with no defenses, with a guy just shooting people. And he had multiple loaded magazines and guns and stuff, and he was bent on killing everybody in the church.
Do you think he was on his way to another church as well? Because I listened to your interview that you did on Stephen Crowder, your very first interview after the incident, and there was some speculation because he had so many weapons in his car that he might have been on some kind of rampage. So you actually saved more lives than anyone can even predict.
There was speculation that he might have been going to another church. We do know now, now that, hindsight, he actually went to a church before he came to Sutherland Springs, and he went into the church and sat on the back pew, and there were 2 uniformed police officers that went to that church that were going to church, and then they were going to report to duty, and we think he was going to start the shooting there, but probably saw the uniformed officers and thought better of it, decided he would come to Sutherland Springs first. And all this is speculation because we don't know. But he could have very possibly have, if he would not have seen armed resistance, he might possibly have started shooting there and then left that church and waited for the police to go there and started shooting at Sutherland Springs. How do you know what's in a demented mind? There's no way of telling.